If a house could store memories, then the Carter estate is drenched in lies, fear, and bloodless crimes. In this episode, Celeste returns to the place where a girl was murdered by silence and by signatures forged under pressure. But what she finds isn't just evidence, it's the truth about herself.
The air was cold and thick, like even time was afraid to breathe here. Noah and I stood in front of the tall iron gates, the same gates I once thought were untouchable just weeks ago. But now, I had the key. Not a metal one, but a memory. I knew the passcode known of the data strings embedded in Kira. EXP. Aiden's mother had been too confident, thinking the dead don't come back. But I am the dead returned. We stepped inside. The Carter estate was eerily quiet. Ivory walls, crystal chandeliers, spiral staircase, everything looked frozen, like a still frame. But I knew. This place was once the scene of a bloodless murder. It was in this very living room that they forced Kira to sign a voluntary withdrawal agreement. I remembered that afternoon clearly. Aiden's mother, Margaret Carter, wearing a violet silk dress, sat on the sofa with a smile sharp as a blade. "All we need is your signature," she said. "In exchange, your scholarship stays intact." Kira had trembling hands, but I signed. A scrawled name under a carefully crafted lie. I didn't know that the document would later be used to erase every accusation Kira made against Crystal, Daisy, and Aiden himself. Noah shone his phone's flashlight onto the glass cabinet in the study. That's where I found Aiden's old video camera, hidden behind thick books. The memory card was still inside, and next to it, a leather-bound journal, initials MC carved into its spine. I opened it. They placed the girl into the pilot test group. From her behavioral data, we could predict student reactions under stress conditions. I warned them, but the principal agreed. The girl had no idea. Celeste is the purest version of Kira. Every reaction is accurate. If we can reconstruct a student from data, we can control both behavior and testimony. I froze. I was raw material. Raw data under analysis. An experiment designed to predict behavior under pressure. The pain I'd lived through the trembling, the silences, the tiny shattered deaths of the soul were no longer feelings. They were test cases. They didn't just ignore my voice. They copied it, decoded it, used it as a tool to distort reality. And they thought I'd never know. I closed the journal, my palms slick with cold sweat. In the darkness, I could hear my heart beat. Not Celeste's, but Kira's Anne. The girl they thought had quietly disappeared from this world. But I was still here. And this time, I wasn't staying silent. I threw the journal onto Aiden's desk. He flinched. Sunlight spilled through the window, lighting up his messy brown hair, revealing a confusion he could no longer hide. Aiden sat still, like a statue just waking up from a nightmare. "Read it," I said. My voice cracked, torn from the deepest part of my throat. But every word was sharp as a blade. He picked it up, and I saw his eyes tremble as he read like a man reading his own verdict. Halfway through, Aiden stopped. His fingers clutched the page. "You didn't know?" I asked slowly, not out of mercy, but to hold myself together. He shook his head. "I didn't think my mom." "You knew." I cut him off. Cold, precise. "You always knew, but you did nothing." He swallowed hard, as if a stone was stuck in his throat. He didn't cry, didn't argue, didn't defend himself. He just sat there, head down, shoulders curled in shame. "I couldn't go against her," he whispered. His voice was as faint as a pin dropping onto a wooden desk. I stepped forward, standing directly in front of him. I met his eyes that refused to meet mine. "Then do you want to keep being a puppet?" I leaned in, my voice low and seething with contempt. "Or finally start being a person?" No reply. Only silence. The kind that falls when someone realizes they've stood on the wrong side of the truth for too long. And the cost was a life that can never return. My phone screen lit up, like a fresh wound torn open. A video auto-played. Miss Celeste, screaming at a small student. Eyes wild. Hand slamming the table, knocking over a plastic cup that rolled away. I froze. I had never done that. I zoomed in on each frame. The camera angle was skewed. The lighting was off. My shadow pointed the wrong way from the dorm light. The movements didn't sync. It was fabricated, edited. I felt myself split into two. The real Celeste holding the phone, and the fake Celeste. Constructed to be a bully, Grace wasn't just retaliating. She was rewriting me. Just like they once reconstructed Kira from data. Now she was creating a new Kira. By distorting Celeste, I felt a sick twist in my stomach. Not from rage, but fear. Fear that the truth again would be warped so much. People would only remember the lie. I stepped onto the stage like walking a tightrope. Each step slicing through the flesh of the system. No glamour, no LED screens, no slideshow. Just an old dull silver camera, scratched at the edges like a past Claude Raw. I held it up. "This is the Carter household camera," I said. My voice rang out into the auditorium like an arrow aimed at the place no one wanted to acknowledge. "And this is the coercion file used to silence a student." I pressed play. Margaret Carter's voice filled the air. Clear, cold, blunt. "Don't sign and you lose the scholarship. You lose your future." A parent in the middle row stood up, gasping through tears. "Oh my God, that was Kira. I remember her." I looked down. My eyes swept over each face. Some red with shame, some pale like their lies had been peeled open. "No one remembers someone when they're alive," I said, each word unearthing a grave. "Only when they're dead do people start to care." No one replied. But that silence was the loudest confession of all. I stepped onto the stage like walking a tightrope. Each step slicing through the flesh of the system. No glamour, no LED screens, no slideshow. Just an old dull silver camera, scratched at the edges like a past Claude Raw. I held it up. "This is the Carter household camera," I said. My voice rang out into the auditorium like an arrow aimed at the place no one wanted to acknowledge. "And this is the coercion file used to silence a student." I pressed play. Margaret Carter's voice filled the air. Clear, cold, blunt. "Don't sign and you lose the scholarship. You lose your future." A parent in the middle row stood up, gasping through tears. "Oh my God, that was Kira. I remember her." I looked down. My eyes swept over each face. Some red with shame, some pale like their lies had been peeled open. "No one remembers someone when they're alive," I said, each word unearthing a grave. "Only when they're dead do people start to care." No one replied. But that silence was the loudest confession of all. "Want to know who helped create the data system?" Her voice was light like she was chatting about group homework. I clenched my fists, nails biting into my palms. Grace tilted her head. Her eyes gleamed like the tip of a knife. "It was you, Kira," she whispered. "You forgot, didn't you? You signed the consent form. You were the first one to donate your data." I froze. It felt like all the air had been ripped from my lungs. Everything I knew about myself shattered. I wasn't just fighting to bring justice to Kira. I was the very first link in the chain that destroyed her.
Sometimes, the one who created the nightmare is the same one who dreamed it first. Celeste thought she was breaking the script, but when Grace whispered that it was Kira, she, who first consented to the experiment, everything turned upside down. So now, is she fighting to save Kira? Or trying to forgive herself? The answer lies on the other side of silence.